Automation is often treated as a solution to workforce problems, but automation doesn't replace the need for workforce strategy. In many cases, it makes the absence of one more visible. Robot training is necessary, but it should be the starting point, not the finish line. At the end of almost every basic operation class I teach, someone pulls me to a side and ask this question. They'll say, "So, what's the next class?" And that question actually matters more than what people realize. First, the person in front of me is curious. Second, they realize something important on their own. Learning the basics is not the same thing as being capable. And somewhere in between curiosity and capability is an opportunity that most manufacturers are missing. So I spend a lot of time with companies who invest in automation, and they're investing in automation for a lot of different reasons. We have retirements, we have hiring gaps, we have inconsistent throughput or unoptimized throughput. There are a host of valid reasons why companies are automating. But automation does not replace the need for a workforce development strategy. In many cases, it actually makes the need for one more urgent. Automation solves output problems, it does not solve capability problems. The problems that we're seeing in most companies is they don't have a workforce development strategy at all. What they have is training, and those two things are not the same. Training, for the most part, in a manufacturing setting is transactional. You train someone so they can operate the system, they can pass the certification, or they can complete a specific task safely. Training answers one question: can this person do the job right? Workforce development answers a different question: how does someone grow here? That question is about responsibility, it's about trust, it's about pay, it's about agency. And it's the question that they're asking when they say, "What's next?" The distinction gets blurry in manufacturing because in a lot of small manufacturing shops, robot training is often treated as a necessary expense to purchasing the robot. You buy the robot, you train the operator, that box is checked, and now you move on. But when someone is asking you what's next, they're telling you that they don't want to stay at the floor level forever. They're really asking you what's the path forward. And if your only answer is there isn't one, well, the curiosity that we saw earlier eventually turns into disengagement, and disengagement turns into attrition. And you have to pay to start over again when that person leaves. One of the quiet truths about automation is that it shifts where expertise lives. Robot removes certain manual tasks, but they create new decision points upstream and downstream because someone has to understand process, someone has to understand touch ups, someone has to understand programming, fixturing, maintenance, upkeep, weld quality, throughput. And these are all areas to grow into. But without an intentional pathway, what you end up with is a few overburdened experts and a funnel where operators have no place to go. That creates a fragile system. And here's the point that we take a big picture and step back to, because we have a lot of problems here when we're thinking about workforce development, because it's not intentional that they're doing that, it's just structural. Because many companies don't have relationships with local schools or communities. There a lot of roles are informal where people have a title, but they're taking on many different responsibilities. Growth happens ad hoc. You get promoted to different things, but it's not a designated path that gets people promoted. It's just a matter of, I think you know this, and now we're gonna, move you along here. And that's where a lot of manufacturers are at. And we want to get more systemized than that. To get systemized, you need a workforce development strategy that doesn't have to be complicated, because all you have to do is be explicit. What are the capability levels? What are the skills at each level? How does responsibility expand? How does compensation follow? These are the things that you can do just starting there to get you a workforce development strategy underway. And then you can start expanding outward. But on inward, these four things, if you can answer these four things and you have this documented, you have a workforce development strategy. For the case of robot training, it looks like this. When they ask what's next, they're standing at the operator. And now we can say, okay, here are your skills to get to advanced operator. Here are the responsibilities that go with it. Here's the pay that goes with it. You go to technician, responsibilities, compensation, accountability. When you go to the specialist, responsibilities, compensation, expectations. And what you have is a system where people know that they can go somewhere. So when that person says, hey, what classes can I take next? In front of him is a pathway to something more. Euphemism for even when you think about AI in a workforce. So automation amplifies whatever system you already have. A system built on short-term training, you're going to hit a productivity ceiling because having one person in your shop who knows everything about that robot, when that person leaves, you have now introduced a productivity gap. Okay. So this is why even with one robot, with one small shop, thinking about development is an important thing for not only your people, but for your manufacturing process. If you're standing with a fork in the road and someone says, this is as far as it goes, and the other one says, hey, I can help you build expertise and capabilities, what path do you take? Well, for a lot of people, they're going to take the build capability path. And if you don't have that in your shop, guess what those type of people will do? They will leave. And that's what we want to avoid. So have a workforce development strategy, get those four things in place. When we talk about have defined levels, have responsibility, have the defined skills, have the compensation. Get these four things in place for all of your tasks. You now have a workforce development strategy that you can build on. All right. So that's it. I am